Okay, the biased argument. That's something I hear a lot in regards to antinatalism. They say the same thing about atheism as well. They say things like antinatalists are just being unfair and not giving other arguments a chance. They probably had a bad life and are just projecting their own worldview onto others. They look at the world through a lens colored by their own personal tragedies, and from there make the assumption that bringing new life into the world is always a negative, based on their own subjective experiences without considering how others may feel about their own lives. Okay, so here's my question to the people that feel that way. Are you saying it's okay to completely dismiss an argument based on the fact that the people making the argument might be too pessimistic or negative, while simultaneously giving your consent to pull more unwilling, unknowing participants into existence and making them play in this sadistic lottery game called life, without even considering that it may in fact be you that's biased? Sure, they might get lucky and be born to an affluent family that loves and cares for them and makes sure they have everything they need to set them on the path to a fulfilling and wonderful life. That's if they can avoid the disease and countless other personal tragedies that can affect them regardless of their personal wealth or education. Having lots of money doesn't always shield you from being the victim of unwanted tragedies. I can use Lindsay Lohan, Rose McGowan, Whitney Houston, Chester Bennington, Robin Williams, Kurt Cobain, Michael Jackson, Heath Ledger, Judy Garland, and Marilyn Monroe as examples, but there are countless others. The dice get rolled every time a baby is born. Sometimes it's good, many times it's bad, but no life is really perfect, and everyone has their own personal battles, whether they talk about it or not. Statistically speaking, most people will be born poor and have lives full of struggle. About 700 million people in the world live on the equivalent of $1.90 a day, and over 1 billion people live in conditions and endure lives that most people wouldn't want to see in their nightmares, let alone live it every day. Just remember, every homeless person or drug addict you walk by or see on the street was someone's baby once. I'm sure that their parents couldn't have imagined that that would be their child's eventual fate. Every baby born is a new dice roll, a new chance for things to go horribly wrong. The new baby is completely faultless to the circumstances to which it was born into, just an innocent victim caught up in a swirling storm beyond his or her control. Antinatalists are not so much biased as they are willing to see the world without the filters that societies often put over our eyes in order for us to continue to keep playing the same game over and over again, despite the horrific consequences and pain it causes. To those that point the finger and say that antinatalists are just being biased, did they ever stop to think if maybe they're the ones suffering from optimism bias? I wouldn't be surprised, considering we are all constantly being told to look on the bright side and think positive, regardless of whatever happens to us. Many would argue that optimism bias is a good thing. Optimists tend to be more motivated and are usually not discouraged by their failures. They also show a strong resistance to depression, but often assume the outcomes of their actions will be much better than they really are. An optimist will happily push the boulder of Sisyphus up the mountain without any complaints, because in their minds, it will all get better one day. Despite the apparent benefits associated with optimism, I still prefer realism, because it's as close to being purely objective as a biological organism can get. Be it positive or negative, we all struggle with some kind of bias though, because we are all organic creatures having our own subjective experiences. But I think we can all agree that pain and suffering is a bad thing, and exposing other people to it on purpose is morally reprehensible and irresponsible. Perhaps all that optimism becomes a negative if it's used to hide, suppress, or make the harsher realities of existence less apparent. People often find it easier to just stick their heads in the sand and pretend the bad things aren't there in order to get on with their lives. Life is a lot easier from the safety of your happy bubble, where the rest of the world doesn't matter. That mentality is really prevalent in the West. So, if that's how you deal with life, then fine. Just don't bring more people into that mess, which is what you are doing by having children. They didn't sign up to live in this dystopia we live in, and they shouldn't be forced to. No one should. Thanks for watching, and be as safe as you can be out there.